Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Monday Night Show on Boro Fan TV with me, James Hutchinson. Joining me once again are Tony Guest, Joe Scott and David Campbell. Welcome to the show, lads.
Up the Boro.
Yeah.
Right, Boro fans, loads to discuss tonight. We're going to go from the highs of the professional performance down on the banks of the River Trent, which brought 3 points at Nottingham Forest, to yesterday's painful defeat against Blackburn Rovers. We've got match previews to do for two games that are coming up this week against Rotherham and Norwich. We're also in the final week of the transfer window, which closes next week. So loads to get through tonight, Boro fans. Join us in the debate as always. We welcome your thoughts and opinions. So get in touch with us, Boro fans. So lads, I'm going to get straight on to yesterday's game rather than the Forest game. We'll talk about the Blackburn game. Tony, that's going to be a game that's going to live long in the memory for probably all the wrong reasons yesterday. And there's only one place to start, Tony, and that's the Dale Fry incident involving Jared Branthwaite. What was your take on it, pal?
This is where we watch two different versions of the game now, James. Even in the FA Cup, in the Premier League, you'd have VAR. Some games in the FA Cup, you have VAR, and the Championship. I've never ever wanted VAR in the Championship, but when you're seeing, some as blatant as that, got his foot. He had clown's feet. His foot was bigger than Dale's head, and you could see the impact on Dale's face. And you've got a linesman, you've got a referee, both looking directly at what was going on, and for not to even give a penalty for dangerous play. You see in the Premier League, you see some of these players getting sent off for dangerous play with a foot up, when they're just going in hard. And it was like we'll all keep saying it. It's been said, like you say, it's been said by Warnock, it's been said by us all on social media. We lost out in three ways there. We lost one of our best players, we lost out on a penalty, and they should have been down to 10 men. And one-off decisions don't, necessarily make the game, but that would have helped massively towards Boro going on and get 3 points yesterday. It was just like you say, that penalty, that referee has previous against us, playing 8 minutes against Burnley and all the other things I've been reading about. He was suspended from the game for over 2 years, from 2017 to 2019. And we always end up with the duds, James. And it's not just our club that suffers for some of these decisions. I watched the Bournemouth game the other night, and that was the refereeing, the standard of refereeing in this game, in this league's absolutely dross. But like you say, thankfully, thank God, Dale's looks like it's going to be nothing too permanent, apart from a couple of scars around the eyes, you know what I mean? But where he comes from, he should have had a couple of them already, you know what I mean? But it's that's
the most disappointing thing for me. We all know it's a penalty and a red card, but not many people are talking about how serious it could have been to Fry. Not just what he suffered, but he could have been blind. That could have been his career ended.
The first picture I seen, I thought he was actually bleeding from his eyeball. You know what I mean? It was the camera. So I was fearing the worst for the kid. So like you say, no one's, apart from Warnock, no one's really mentioned how bad that could have been. I know it wasn't, but he's only a kid. They're saying he's only a kid that done it. So he should have been meant to learn yesterday not to do it again. Give us a penalty, send him off, and he won't lift his boot that high again in the penalty area. But
I'm going to say, Tony, for me, at the end of the day, once you step foot on that pitch, it doesn't really matter how old you are. You're playing a game of professional football, whether you're 18, 28, 38. If you commit a foul like that, you have to be punished in the same way, irrespective of your age. And I think that's where people were maybe disappointed with some of the after-match comments, which we'll get on to later. But
we stopped the tackle from behind to prolong players' careers. Stopped all the good players getting smashed into. We stopped all that. But you can't have people going lifting the foot that high in the penalty area. Not at nothing else. The only person who would have got away with a challenge like that in in any other game, it'd have been a goalkeeper. But for a centre half to be lifting his foot that high, like you say, James, no matter what age he is, it was bad to watch. It was bad to see. And like you say, when you see one of your own heirs, it wasn't very nice.
Yeah.
There'll be no further action against the referee, which is the most disappointing part as well.
Yeah.
Won't there? Won't be no disrespectful.
I don't think so.
Not even for the player.
No.
No.
Yeah. I think it depends on if the referee includes it in his match report, Tony. And to be honest, I don't think he will. It's
Well, he can't because he never seen it, did he?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Someone else who didn't see it apparently yesterday, but there you go.
I'm really surprised at Mowbray's comments as well, because usually Mogger says it how it is, and then for him to say that he never seen it, or if you look at it from a Middlesbrough point of view or a Blackburn point of view, he's only a young kid. He was coming out with excuses which surprised me for Mogger. You know what I mean? He's usually quite straight and honest, but he's never seen it. He's seen the kid walk past him when he went down the tunnel. You know what I mean? So I think he went down in estimations of a few Boro fans yesterday.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, David, just going to say there about, and Tony alluded to it there, the triple whammy of won the penalty, which is no guarantees it would have gone in, but we would have had a penalty. Yeah. They should have been down to 10 men for 75 minutes, but we've also lost a key member of our squad for we don't know how long. And it really showed yesterday. It's not pointing the finger at Nathan Wood or anything, but it had a massive effect on us from that way in terms of how our defence functioned with Dale being off the pitch, didn't it?
Yeah, our mentality just after that happened defensively changed completely. We were already uneasy, steady with the Dyke-Steele for Spence swap, and then you bring a further inexperienced, and then you've got McNair. Yeah, he's played well at centre half, but he's not really a centre half. So we just, for the first time for me, look really disjointed at the back. And yeah, now you're hoping Grant Hall can come back fit, but it's going to take. He's been out for so long. It's going to take him a run of games to get into the swing of things at a crucial part of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, and Joe, Neil Cowan's picked up there about a stat that the referee sent 6 off in the championship games that he's done, and 3 have been Boro. He's also booked more Boro players than any other team. I'm not quite sure about that, but the thing is, in terms of another knock-on effect is we've got the transfer window coming up or finishing in just over a week's time. Previously, we were looking at maybe wingers, centre forwards. You think losing Dale Fry might then force Neil Warnock's hands into maybe bringing in a centre half now instead?
It could be a possibility, but from the way I look at things, there's a possibility, like me and Gasly touched on before the show, that Fry could be available for probably for Wednesday, but only if he wears like protective gear or something. But as far as looking at the centre halves of the transfer window goes, it could be a possibility, but it just depends on whether you can get the likes of Grant Hall back, or probably push Dyke-Steele in the centre half once he returns.
And David, moving on from the Dale Fry incident, we'll come back to as well, but the importance of the first goal was highlighted again for Boro yesterday, and it was just like we seem to struggle when we go behind. Do you think there's a reason for that?
Formation, I think we're a little bit negative at home. We touched the point before, playing 3 central midfielders at home against the likes of Blackburn and Birmingham, for me, is not good enough. It sets up us away from home where the emphasis isn't on us to attack. But when we're at home, we should be attacking these teams, not relying on 3 central midfielders. So when you go a goal behind, teams automatically to put 10 men behind the ball, and we don't have that attacking outlet, which makes it even worse that we're leaving our substitutions a little bit too late for me.
Yeah, which is like in contrast in a way to the Birmingham game last week where he made 3 substitutions at half time. But Tony, I mean, we conceded a poor goal to go 1-0 behind, and what concerned me, there was very little response after that, and we never really looked like scoring, did we?
No, just touch on what Dave said there. It's been a disease in our club for about 3 or 4 seasons now, where if we go a goal behind, for a fact, deep down in your bones, we're not going to come back from it. And it's not just this season. It seems to be coming back this season where we're going to goal behind at home, and you just know that we're not going to get back into the game. And like you say, Dave, I don't know, like you say, we've never. It's very rare we've gone with 2 up front at home for a long time, and it's just something that's ingrained in the club at the moment. Like the lack of goals, that's been going on for too long. We've done nothing about that. Britt's now in his 4th year. We've still struggled with goals, and we've never brought nobody in to try and, rectify that. We've just persevered with Brit. But the conceding the goals at home, Fest, we were well, before we conceded, we were well on top. We never took our chances, you know what I mean? We only have ourselves to blame. Jeds came in for a lot of criticism for the goal. We've got to work out what we want from Jed Spence. Do we want him bombing on down the wing, or do we want him playing in a solid back 4? And we can't have it both ways the way Jed plays. Where do I feel that goal came from? We had Britt and their fullback having a game of ring of roses, for the over the ball, both of them waiting for a decision which never come. Then for some reason, Nathan Wood broke the line. And once Nathan Wood had broke the line and the lad had gone down the right, Howson turned round expecting cover to be there. But I'd like to say, for the life of me, I don't know why Howson didn't go with him as well. But he must have been expecting cover behind him. And then obviously the kid just ran into the box and had, the freedom of Linthorpe Road to tap the ball in.
Yeah, the thing is, Spence is still stood on that pitch now looking to see where Rothwell went. He didn't have a clue where he went.
Yeah, but it was Spence. Spence lost the ball on the edge of their box. So,
But he was marking Rothwell. Spence was Rothwell's man.
Yeah, but Rothwell ran past Howie Tony, ran past Howson, ran straight past Johnny Howson. Johnny Howson just let it go. You know what I mean? Every single one of them. And McNair, what wasn't McNair doing in the fullback position?
Yeah,
McNair was in more of a left back position than what Bowler was. There was no cover in the middle of our box whatsoever, and how we ended up with our defence in that position, I'll never know. You know what I mean? Nathan Wood made the biggest mistake. He broke the line. He ran out to go to the lad with the ball instead of just holding his ground. But for me, Nathan Wood had an absolute nightmare. He couldn't have had a worse game. Hopefully that's his worst game he's going to have in a brother shed, because he's got a big future at the club, Nathan Wood, and I just hope he gets that game out of his system.
Yeah, thing is, it just highlights he needs a loan deal, doesn't he, to make those mistakes?
Yeah.
Not ours, really.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of viewers getting in touch with obviously what happened yesterday. Matthew King, it was more than one man that lost the man. There was 2 or 3 free. And then the referees obviously cotton a load of flack. Paul Nicholas, Paul. No way the ref or assistant didn't see that incident. You won't see a refereeing decision worse than that all season. Didn't get a red, didn't get a pen. That's our best centre-back. No excuse for the defending on their goal. And Ben Thornton, at least one of the officials must have seen the foul on Fry and told the ref. And I thought Joby McAnuff was quite good after the game, Joe, where he mentioned that in the previous game, the Preston Reading game, the referee gave himself a few seconds to see what had gone on before deciding to give Reading a penalty. It must have been pretty obvious to that referee yesterday when he went over to see Dale Fry and he saw the blood coming from the wound. Hang on a minute, what's going on here? He's been challenging for header. He's headed the ball. He's ended up with blood all over him. I don't see how he couldn't come to the decision he didn't come to.
And unless he must have thought it was a clash of heads in the box, and that probably what the referee must have thought. But at the end of the day, it was the cast-iron penalty as soon as I saw it on the replay. I mean, I've heard a couple of reports that the referee was actually from Newcastle, from what I've heard. But at least from what I know, but I think probably that's one of the reasons that he didn't give the penalty.
Steve Bruce's granddad.
But anyways, back to it. I think going back to the Preston Reading game that was on beforehand, when the referee did give a couple of seconds to give the penalty, which obviously Reading missed. I mean, he could have done the same there if he would have saw the challenger up close.
Yeah.
The thing is, Joe, what Gessie alluded to earlier in James, there's 4 of them to help make a decision there, isn't there? There's the 2 linesmen, the 4th official, and the referee. Telling me that one of them spotted it.
The 4th official in the championships isn't worth a carrot, is he? Because he's like them in the Champions League with a 1 behind the goal.
Yeah.
He's just there for show, isn't he? He's just there so he can get to the game with the lads. For me, like, because they have no involvement apart from holding the
board up.
The substitute board up.
Gessie, I know VAR doesn't exist, but that 4th official has got a screen where he can watch back. So there's no way. I know he's not supposed to intervene and say you've missed this because VAR doesn't. But there's no way.
Dave, do you remember the Brighton game when who was it who smashed into Ramirez?
Dale Stevens, yeah.
Well, the referee never seen that as a sending off offence. Then when he went over and seen the state of Gaston's leg, that's what he sent him off. You know what I mean? And that was looking at the injury. He knew there and then that lad's gone over the top and he needs to walk. And that was only after looking at Gaston Ramirez's leg. So he stood there over the top of Dale while he's getting treatment, and I'm doing my damnedest here not to swear, and I think I'm doing a good job of it.
Sorry, we'll move off the referee for a few minutes. Joe, just before we come away from the Blackburn game, that's 2 home games in a row now where we haven't scored a goal and lost 1-0. How much is a concern for you, our home form at the moment?
It's very concerning, considering the fact most of the wins from the start of the year have both been away from home. But so I think it's just a case of us doing better on the road recently than we are at home, which is come the common thing. Ever since we came out of the season we started after the first lockdown, I think we're more better away from home than we are at home, which is more concerning, from my point of view. So it's just a case of trying to rectify a home form at the right time. Because when you look at the start of the season, we were good at home, but turn around to the first month of the calendar year, we're not doing good at home. So I don't know what's the reason behind it, to be honest.
Yeah. And I'm going to get you going again now, Tony. All right. We're going to get on to after the match. And obviously there was a comment from the 2 managers. And before the game, it was mentioned about Tony Mowbray said he didn't see himself as a legend, a Middlesbrough legend. Now, for me, he's a massive legend for what he did.
Where's that? Why is he saying that? Where's that come from?
I'm just going to say, do you think he came up with some strange comments when we played at Blackburn, when we played him away and we drew earlier this season, and he wasn't too complimentary about how we played that night. And do you think there's some sort of bad blood or an issue between him and Neil Warnock or something? Because he just seems as though it's not the Tony Mowbray I've ever seen in interviews before. And I must admit, he hasn't gone down in my estimation. It'd take a hell of a lot for him to go down in my estimation personally. But I was disappointed by some of the things he said yesterday. Can you figure out why he said what he did?
Like you say, is it down to Neil Warnock being at our club? For him to turn around and say he's not a Middlesbrough legend, that really knocked me sideways. You know what I mean? What was he? What, from a kid, 10 years at the club, moved on to Celtic?
Yeah.
Brought the club through its darkest moments, you know what I mean, as skipper, young skipper. Of course, James, at the end of the day, he's one of the biggest legends we've had. He's up there. If you're going to put a statue up, you could put one up to Mowbray for what he done for our club.
Yeah.
But some of the comments yesterday was, I don't know, he's saying afterwards he's saying he's a massive Boro fan. Obviously, he's a massive friends with Gibbo. He always wants the club to do well, but then, he's coming out and saying, whether it's just to get under Warnock's skin, I don't know, when he said I didn't see it. Do you know what I mean, James? So there could be a bit of banter.
The way he was dismissed, though, Gestie, don't you? And then when we brought Cranker in, he then suddenly gave Cranker the funds where he wouldn't give funds to Mowbray. I don't know if that's got something to do with it.
Well, like you say, last week when we were on, Dave, I did mention about when Mogger was here and we were in a similar position to what we are now. And if Mogger had got the funds, he'd have most probably got us up, but we didn't bring no one in. You know what I mean? And obviously the following season we struggled, and that's when we brought Karanka in. But
give him money.
you still see him going to the Riverside when he's off, or if Blackburn hasn't got a game, you still see him there. So
I think he's still got a house in the area as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, I just don't get where he was coming from, Joe. Totally threw me that one, James.
Yeah,
it was when he was laughing on the bench. Where I think he was laughing because of the way Warnock was going on, not because of the type of incident.
Yeah.
But it was something towards the end of the game. Stuart Downing got involved when Warnock, and then Stuart Downing was right in the middle of it, and you're just like, I can understand your local lads, but try keep away from that, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think Warnock tried to get that kid in the tunnel, didn't he?
Yeah, and then Downing was
and that's where I take issue a little bit with Warnock there, lads, because at the end of the day, I know what I've said earlier on about his age, this, that, and the other, but that's not the way to go about it either, by getting in his face as they're coming off the pitch. I mean, I don't know.
Frustration, wasn't it?
It is, and I think we were all frustrated, but that doesn't achieve anything for me. No. But then, like you said, same token, some of the comments after the game were really disappointing for me. So I think we'll draw it under a line with the Blackburn game, lads, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We'll go on to.
In my opinion, James, up until the goal, I think they had the first 10 minutes where I thought it was going to go the same way as the Birmingham game. But then, from then on, I felt we dominated that game, and
yeah, I do.
Even after Dale's foul, we had the chances to win that game, and you know, as we all know, if you don't score, you don't get an out, mate. So
you're right, mate. You're totally right. Well, last week, as we said on the show, we were all down to get absolutely nothing of Forest. And as Gareth Cole said, when you're doing your predictions, can I back opposite to your bets this week, lads, so I can get some money? In fairness, Joe, you were the only one that called an away win down at Forest last week. And we saw a much transformed performance, didn't we?
Yeah, it was the complete opposite from what we saw this Sunday. It was just when the lads gelled together at Forest, and particularly British Sombalonga, because you know he was desperate to get a goal against Forest, because more of the time he always seemed to score against Forest's neighbours from up the road at Derby. So I think it was one of Sombalonga's best games for the Boro this season. You know, whether people disagree it or not.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on there, Joe. And Tony, I mean, whether it was the extra recovery time or getting over the effects of COVID or whatever Warnock said after the Birmingham game, there was a much improved performance, particularly in midfield as well that night. Morsey, Saville, Tav, they all made big contributions, didn't they?
Yeah, from the first minute, James, we were at them. And, you know, people were saying it's a poor Forest team, but that was down to us. We absolutely strangled them. And, you know, that feeling you get after the performance against Birmingham, to see that, you know, McNair was running about like an 18-year-old again. And thank God Britt got an early chance and he took it, you know what I mean? It wasn't so much of a gimme, but just to see Britt getting on the score sheet and things getting settled down, and once again, Savinelli popping up with a goal. It was absolutely an unbelievable display, but for the last couple of minutes, had us on the edge of our settees again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, after the game, Warnock was fulsome in his praise of Johnny House, and if you had the live stream on, you had the commentary from BBC Radio Nottingham, and Steve Hodge, ex-England player, was on there. And again, he was saying that Howson was head and shoulders above anybody on that pitch. Yeah. He just gets better and better with age, doesn't he, that lad?
He does.
Absolutely.
I don't think we've seen the best of him because we've utilised him at right back, centre back. If I'd have liked to have seen him cement a place in the defensive role, which he's playing now. He's playing just in front of the back four, and he just relaxes the whole midfield and allows the likes of Saville to push on. You know, we're so composed on the ball with Howson and the team in the middle.
Yeah. I was speaking to Darwin Saw after the game, who was a Forest fan, and he said that Johnny Howson always seems to do well against us, no matter what club he plays for, whether it was Leeds, Norwich, or us. He always seems to do well against Forest.
And talking to Brit again, Tony, he was involved in a number of spats during that game with that Raj packet from Forest, Yuri Ribeiro. I mean, he could have no complaints at all about being sent off him, but he could have been sent off 3 times.
He could have been suspended. He could have been suspended for 12 games. He totally lost the plot, that kid. And then they send him off towards the end where he jumped on Savile. And then, like you say, we all go on that social media and you see people trying out to make that Brit the kid. You know what I mean? I'm like, what am I reading here?
Yeah.
I don't think he bit him, but I think he thought about biting him when he put his head in there. And then realised at the last minute, better not.
I wish I'd have only thought about having kids.
I mean, even when I was watching it on EFL on Quest, Darren Bent, who was the guest on there, said Ribeiro could have been sent off for the first headbutt. That happened to Assombalonga.
Yeah. Oh, he could have done, definitely. I mean, David as well, a few people have been commenting there on Mark Bowler's performance last Wednesday in his season in general. But the whole of the backline impressed me that night because, in fairness, when you look at what Forest started off with up front and then what they managed to bring on as well, I mean, they've got some options in the forward line, which I think most teams in the Championship would be envious of, wouldn't they?
They would, and we nullified that threat really well. I think we all agree what our strongest back four is, but when you're away from home and you've got the 3 holding midfielders, I think that also helps the back four look a little bit more steadier as well. But Mark Bowler, like you said, he's been the standout player this season. People talk about Savile, but I've always thought Savile's has been good at the Boro, just being played out of position at times. But Bowler's, he's come on leaps and bounds, you know.
Yeah, Pete Robbo agrees with you. And the final thing on the Forest game, Tony, I mean, I know we were all this time last week, apart from Joe, we're all like, it's a tough game, hard game. But in fairness, they came into that game 7 undefeated. Traditionally, it's a tough place for us to go to, the City Ground at Forest. So to have an ideal away performance like that and come away with the 3 points, it wasn't probably what many of us expected, was it?
No, I definitely, like you said, I think I went 1-1. And I thought that was wishful thinking, but to come away with all 3 points at the City Ground, and it wasn't just the 3 points, it was the way that we played. Like you say, Bowler, where he's come from, all of a sudden to have, you can see him, he's full of chat, he's giving his all, he's getting into the referee's ribs now, he just looks like a totally different bloke. Whether we've swapped him for his cousin or someone like that, he's absolutely unbelievable, the commitment he's given to our club at the moment.
Yeah, he just needed the seaside air from Blackpool to bring it back to energise him for us.
Yeah.
Holiday.
Just touching on that Forest game, it just shows you players like Lyle Taylor held Charlton to ransom, thought he was bigger than better than what he was, wanted to move to a bigger, better club. And he comes on as a sub for Nottingham Forest, and he never got a kick. He never got a kick against us. And I think he struggled all season. So, like you say, whereas Boro fans whinging and moaning about Brit, I wanted someone like Lyle Taylor to come into our club.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But was it Peterborough? Sorry, not Charlton. Was he Peterborough? Charlton. Yeah. And he refused to play, didn't he, towards the end of last season?
Yeah.
And he's an absolute bag of he's not that good.
I think the thing is there, Tony, I think obviously there's a lot of players and they've maybe seen what's coming around the corner with obviously COVID and the financial situation in the game. And I think some players have seen, right, this is my last chance to get a really good contract out of wherever I'm playing. And I'm not maybe the greatest player in the world, but I can get a good contract.
He thinks he is.
Yeah, that's a difference.
Yeah.
He thought he was. He thought he was going to a big club.
Yeah. But, well, talking of transfers, we'll look at that now, lads, actually. And Patrick Wheatley's been in touch and he's just said there, Boro should go for Billy Sharp, Matt Phillips, a centre-back. And I think that's Balassi. That would be great. I very much doubt that our funds will stretch that far unless there's somebody going out for big money, lads. I mean, David, the transfer speculation still's going round about, is it a forward, a winger, centre half? What's your thoughts? Where do you think Warnock will strengthen, and how many players do you think he'll possibly bring in?
I think certainly he's going to get a winger. You know, that we need a wide player in the Traore mode who can beat players, cause havoc. Our wingers are just too nicey there to put crosses in, but we need someone who can cause havoc, run at defenders at every opportunity. I think that's where we're missing. Blassie, I think, will be touch and go if we don't get our main target. I mean, I have heard Reece Nelson from Arsenal, you know, and I think he would be exactly the type of player we need. I think definitely one winger with a potential of another winger, depending on the Roberts situation and Tavernier's injury.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And talking to players that are already at the club, Tony, Neil Warnock mentioned last week about Britta Sombolonga, Ashley Fletcher in the last 6 months of their contract. They're not going to be able to get the sort of deals that they're on now. How do you think that's going to play out for us? Could it work in Boro's favour, or do you think this is a problem which is going to end up with two lads leaving in 6 months' time and affecting how we do for the rest of this season?
You know, I don't know how old's Britt now. Britt's the only one who could turn around and say, yeah. Obviously, he had his big money move to us. He could show a bit of loyalty and maybe sign another 2-year contract. Fletcher's younger, 24, 25. I think he might be a bit more ambitious. He might want to move on because he's had a rough ride at the club. I've said it before on here. The last few weeks, while he's been injured, he's been our best player. There's Tav. We're going to get the same with Tav. They put Tav's stats up yesterday. He's fested nearly everything in the
club.
Goals, shots, chances created. Now Tav's out. Even Tav's getting stick off Boro fans. He's going to be out for a while, and now we'll be all screaming for him to come back. He'll be our best player while he's injured. But Fletcher, I'd love Fletcher to have a decent run because not one manager's fancied him. Fletcher's Warnock's given him a bit more rope than the other managers that we've had here. And I'd love to see him get a run because I think in time he could be our 20 goal a season striker. But he just doesn't seem to get that run in the team, or he gets injured or he gets dropped. And on the, like you say, the Patrick Roberts thing, you know, he's not the answer. Patrick Roberts is not the answer to our problems down the flanks. Everybody keeps saying he's creative, he's this, he's that, he's the other. It really boils me when I see people saying he doesn't get a game. No wonder he was rubbish. You know, he's only getting a bit part. And he's not the answer. Getting back to Man City now with the other clown that we had from there, Dementia, whatever he was called. Send them both back there. How they're both Man City players, I'll never know.
That's the problem, Guessy, though, isn't it? If Roberts does go back and you replace him with another loan, are you going to be in the same type of situation, loan for a loan? Is he going to put the effort in? Is he going to, you know...
Forget about Blassie. If Blassie was going to come, he'd be here now. Yeah. That fell down on the last transfer deadline day. So that should have been in place for him to sign as soon as the window opened. You know, if everything had been sorted out, whatever it was, what did they say? It went through too late. All right, then, just sit on it till, you know, the 1st of January. Blassie's deal's not going to happen. I keep seeing that kid from Newcastle. Is it Atsu Joe?
Yeah, Christian Atsu.
Yeah, I see his name popping up quite a lot now. And maybe he's Grzycki. To get them both would be great, but I don't know.
He's back in the West Brom team, Grzycki, though, isn't he?
What bugs me is we spend all this money on academies and young players and this, that, and the other, and we still can't produce. You know, since Huey and Johnson, we've still produced no one really who can cause havoc in the last third of a pitch.
Yeah,
either a centre forward or a winger.
You were saying there, gets about 20 goals a season with Fletcher, and I think he could be, but we don't create enough chances for a 20-goal season striker, and we haven't for years.
No, I agree, Dave. Well said, son. Yeah.
As for Wigan,
where's that club?
yeah, as for Wigan, like I said, I think Guestin's right. I don't see Balassi coming here, but the likes of, say, Christian Atsu from Newcastle, I can potentially see him coming here. But as far as Grzycki goes, if Sam Allardyce is continuing to use him now for West Brom, I think the only answer I think I can have at the moment now is probably going to be Christian Atsu by the looks of things.
Well, it'll all become a bit clearer in just over a week's time, lads. Another thing that's going to be obviously decided over the coming months is the future of the manager himself, Neil Warnock. How do you see that one panning out, David? Because obviously he's 72 years old. Originally came here to do the job of trying to keep us up. He's done that. He's now in his first full season. Do you see him extending that time beyond this season, or do you think it's all dependable on what happens in the rest of this season?
I think so. I think he'll want to give it a good go with fans in the ground as a final. I don't think he'll want to end his managerial career behind closed doors. So I think on that basis, he'll want to go into next season. But he'll want reassurances, of his wife that she's happy to go along with it as well. So I think there is a lot into it, but we just need to see how this season pans out. But yeah, I can't see him not being here next season.
Yeah, I definitely agree with David. I think I just can't imagine Warnock having a send-off, without fans there, and he'll probably want that sort of feeling if he were to go out. So I can definitely see Warnock stay for at least another 12 months. I would say to stay at the Boro, probably whatever division we're going to be in next season.
Do you know, Tony, obviously you made comments about his wife wanting him maybe to do other things in terms of like going away to Italy for a couple of months and stuff like that. And he's based in Devon. Do you think there's any sort of mileage in the fact that he might be involved with the club next season, but maybe in a less hands-on role, and that he's maybe only here on a match day and more of the responsibility goes to the likes of Blackwell and Jepson?
I think he's very hands-on at the moment, isn't he, James? You know what I mean? I think he's staying up at Airworth. I think that happens with a lot of managers. I think that happened with Pulis. I think he was commuting quite a lot in between games from down where he lived somewhere similar, doesn't he, down in Bristol?
Yeah.
So I think it's already happened at our club. It'd be nice for him to stay another 12 months. And, I don't know much about Blackwell, about his past as a manager, but maybe he's just, move more on and promote from within. Do you know what I mean? And just keep a bit of continuity at the club for the next couple of 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Well,
quite a lot of ex-players who played under Warnock have mentioned that they've never had so much time off in the professional. Is that because of the way he likes to commute? I don't know, but it seems to be an ongoing theme for his career where quite a lot of his players do have a lot of time off.
Well, they reckon they get time off if they win a game. Gives them time off. You know what I mean? So I'd just stop giving them time off when we win, because we can't keep going, win one, lose one, or we're going to get nowhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, David, talking of Neil Warnock, one of his former clubs at Rotherham, who we meet this Wednesday, bearing in mind we've lost the last 2 home games and also failed to score, is it a good thing that we're at home to Rotherham on Wednesday, or would you rather be playing them away?
No, it's a good thing. We're going to get beat 4-0. We're all going to be wrong. We'll be sitting here. No, I think they need to win the game, don't they? And away from home would have suited us. But we need to turn it around at home. And I think playing Rotherham at home is an ideal opportunity to get back on that bandwagon, get 3 points and get that home form, because we've got teams coming to the Riverside who are near us in the league. So it's vital we start picking up the wins now to get a bit of consistency.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. And Tony, last week I watched Rotherham play against Stoke on Tuesday night, I think it was. And they played out a 3-3 draw against Stoke. And although they are in the bottom 3, it's not a game anyone should take for granted on Wednesday night, is it?
No, they play some decent football, don't they? You know what I mean? So, but they're the Norwich. They're the Norwich of the Championship, like what Norwich are to the Premier League, Rotherham are to the Championship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Like a yo-yo.
definitely, it's like I said before, these 3 home games, none of them are easy, James. Wednesday night's going to be, it's going to be difficult. we've got first of all we've got to score, and then we've got to put in a performance that's going to keep us all entertained, and a performance that's going to keep us all dreaming that I've got potential to reach the playoffs.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely not a gimme. I am glad we're at home, by the way, James. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a chance for us to get the last two out of our system.
Yeah, fair point. Joe, obviously, it won't be easy. There's probably going to be some changes to the personnel from Sunday's game, with it being a reasonably quick turnaround. What are you expecting in terms of personnel playing, and how do you think the match will go?
Well, if you look at Rotherham, like I said, they've been scoring quite a lot of goals recently, despite the position they're out in a minute. But obviously, like Tavernier, obviously will not, more than likely will not be playing. A question mark over Fry at the moment. So I won't be surprised if a couple of changes will be made in regards to the game against Rotherham. From what I've seen in Rotherham, despite they like to play like a 3-5-2 formation with one player behind the striker. I mean, the likes of Matt Crooks, who's their top scorer this season, is more or less the number 10 who can score as well, and they've got the likes of like Matt Smith, for example, Michael Smith, for example, and Freddie Ladapo, all dangerous strikers. So I think Rotherham are no slouch, despite the position they're in.
Yeah, well,
yeah, I agree, Joe.
We've come to predictions time, lads, and we've got a conflict of opinion here. We've got Patrick Wheatley, who's saying he thinks we're going to struggle and we'll get beat 1-0. Damon LaRoche thinks we're going to win 3-1. So, king of predictions, Joe Scott, you can go first, Joe. What's it going to be?
Probably going to say, I'm going to say 2-1 to Boro. I think we just need that win at home to say in this calendar year.
Right. Go on, David.
I better off asking my mate Steve, because he's got the last 3 Boro results right. But I think
who's on line 1?
Going off that fence. No, I think we will win it. I think we will bounce back. I don't think it's going to be a good performance, because like Joe said, with injuries and selection. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 win.
1-0. That's quite simple. Rotherham, mate. Sorry, what do you reckon, mate?
I'm going to go. I think we'll get battered 3-1. I've got the
it's going to be a mental
psychology, James.
Yeah, I'll take that if it gets us 3 points, Tony. That'll be fine. Yeah. I'll be happy with that. Yeah. And then we go from that, which is obviously the team at the bottom of the table, or second bottom at the moment. The side who were top, Norwich City, live game on Saturday lunchtime on Sky. But in a way, I guess you think that's the sort of situation Neil Warnock relishes, going to the league leaders away. He likes that sort of challenge, doesn't he?
Yeah. He upset a few fans on Neil Maddison's show last night by talking over the Blackburn game and the Rotherham game, saying how much he was looking forward to the Norwich game. You know what I mean? But that's just the way Warnock operates. Whether he was doing that to wind the Birmingham and Blackburn staff up, I don't know. But yeah, Warnock's going to relish it on Saturday, and people will be saying we'll get, but we won't get to go to Norwich on Saturday and disgrace ourselves.
Yeah. How do you think we'll set up, David? How do you think you'll approach that game, Warnock?
Very rigid, depending on obviously who we can bring in and what have you. But you'll see the 3 central midfielders and just sit back and break us down. And I've got a friend who's a Norwich fan, and he's saying all season they've struggled against the weaker teams who put 10 men behind the ball at home. So I fully expect us to do that.
Right.
Do you feel we'll put the men behind the ball, Dave? Because I don't think I've never seen us. Well, not that I think of. I don't think that's in us.
No, I think we play counter-attacking football. I know against Forest we didn't.
Yeah.
But with the back 4 and the 3 central midfield, for me it's very rigid, and I think we won't open the game up against Norwich unless we really, really need to.
Yeah, Joe definitely mentioned earlier on about Norwich, and Tony mentioned there about how Rotherham are like the Championship version of Norwich in the Premier League. 2 years ago, they absolutely strolled away with the Championship, and it looks like they're probably going to do it again. I don't think there's much argument that they probably are the best side in the division, are they?
No, without question. Especially, you know, the way that Daniel Farke likes to set him up, like obviously playing fluid attacking football, I think is Norwich's specialty, and they just need to do that in the Premier League in order if they are to go up and stay up there. Only the big question for them is they're probably more than likely maybe without any Brendan, because I know he's been linked with Arsenal pretty heavily in this transfer window. So whether or not to keep him is another thing. If they do let him go to Arsenal, I can see us playing it to our advantage in terms of with Norwich having to change their style, so to speak, despite players leaving.
Mm-hmm. What I was going to say, my friend was the Norwich fan. He was saying they're suffering real bad shortage of strikers. Hugo's out apparently.
Right.
Edar's out for 3 months, and Pookie's touch and go. So
they've struggled all season for goals. They've allowed teams to stay in games, haven't they, Norwich? You know what I mean? It's the last 10 minutes where they've been putting teams to bed. So, like, obviously, Warnock likes us to stay in the game as long as possible. So it might work in our favour, this one.
Yeah.
Brentford away.
You what, Dave?
It might be similar to when we played Brentford away.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel a bit more optimistic about this game on Saturday now, lads. So now you've talked it all up, you're going to have to back it up with your predictions. So, Tony, I'll come to you first for the Norwich game. What do you reckon?
I think we could... I'm going to say we'll nick it 2-1.
Right. Imagine that beating Rotherham and Norwich. That'd be brilliant. Go on, David.
I think we'll take a draw. I'm going to sit on that fence once again. I think, it will be an interesting performance, but I'm going to go for a draw on that one.
Yeah. And Joe?
Yeah, sticking with David. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw. Oh, well, I think most Boro fans would be more than happy with 4 points from the 2 games this week, lads, to be honest, wouldn't they?
Yeah, back it up. If we beat Rotherham, back it up with a point away. Yeah, you can't argue with that.
Yeah, no,
you know what happened now though? We'll get beat by Rotherham and beat Norwich.
Boro all over. Typical Boro, that, lads. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Had a friggin' lifetime of them results.
Well, unfortunately, everyone, that's our time up for this week's show. We hope you've enjoyed it. Many thanks for watching and contributing, and many thanks, as always, to Geski, David and Joe for joining me. Thanks very much, lads.
No worries, mate.
No worries, James.
Brilliant. It's an important week on and off the pitch for the Boro, so make sure you keep up to date with the latest goings on Boro Fan TV. From us all here, until next Monday, good night and up the Boro.
Up the Boro.
Up the Boro.
Magic, lads.